Hello everyone, Mr. John here from Areteem Institute with this week's Thursday Tidbit. This week we're going to be finishing up the Elo ratings for chess that we started last time. So if you didn't check out that video, I would recommend you take a look at that first just to catch up. We'll do a quick review, but take a look at that video and then come back here for part 2 where we're going to answer some of the questions that we brought up in that video. Like I said, quick review of the Elo rating systems. This is used in chess, that's where our focus is going to be today, but modifications of it are used in other places as well. So this whole thing is based on a player's rating. So if we have two players, player A has a rating A, and player B has a rating B in this case, then the system predicts that they're going to get some number of points. So this is on the 0 to 1 scale. 0 is a loss, 1 is a win. In chess, of course, you have a half is a draw, but this could be thought of in other places too about different point systems. But in general, 0 is a loss, 1 is a win. So we have, of course, some symmetry with the ratings here. So the rating of both opponents shows up in both equations there. And formula looks a little bit complicated, but it's not really as bad as it might seem, right? We have those ratings highlighted. Think of that as the difference between their ratings. You divide that by 400, 10 to that number, and then 1 plus that is your denominator. Again, as we discussed in the previous video, these orders might seem backwards, but this is how it works. Because if you have a higher rating, you want the denominators to be smaller. Because a smaller denominator, right, a negative exponent in the 10 raised to that power is going to be a larger fraction as a whole. Because when we take the reciprocal, then that smaller number in the denominator means that the total number is larger there. Now, this is a prediction of a single game. Of course, you can run this for multiple games too. And then after you play some games, you can update the rating based on this formula. So your new rating is based on, of course, your old rating in that place, right? So in a sense, you can think of this second half of the equation as how much your rating is changing. Now k is this constant, and k equals 10 is what we're going to be using today for FIDE and the World Championship chess level players. That k equals 10 is what's used there. Now, the reason this is thought of as a constant, this is something that you could have thought about a little bit in between the time from this video and the previous video. This is, in a sense, how volatile you want your ratings to be. So when we say it's used for high-level chess, right, if you are just starting out, right, if you have a new player and want to try to rate them using the Elo ratings, you might want a higher K, because you might want to say at the beginning, we don't know the level of the player, let's update their rating much more based on their performance. And then as you collect more and more data, that K value might shrink. And so for these high-level chess players, they're playing a lot. The rating is supposed to know pretty well what level they are. And so that's why we use a fairly small value of K in this case. And then A and P here are the actual versus predicted performance in terms of the points, right? So if you were predicted to earn 0.5 points and you won, then you earned 0.5 points over that prediction, and that multiplied by K is how much your rating changes. So this rating is always changing based on your performance and how much you outperform or underperform what the Elo rating system predicts you to do in that case. So what were our questions from last time? Right, so remember this whole setup was going into the World Chess Championship played between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. And so we have Carlsen and Nepo. They played in total 11 games. It actually went a little bit shorter than expected. The full match could have been 14, but Carlsen won, spoilers, after 11 games. So how many points would the rating system predict they win in those 11 games? And then we know the actual results now, and how did this affect their ratings? So we can practice going through the actual update of their rating and seeing how that works in practice here too on the next couple of slides. So if you didn't answer these questions yet, maybe you could pause the video, still look at them if you want to try them. Otherwise, let's jump in and see what we get. So first of all, for the Elo predictions, let's remind ourselves of the ratings, right? So Magnus was 2856 and Jan was 2782. Now, we didn't really think of the formula that much there, but let's focus, because that's really what's relevant in our formula in this case. What is the difference of this, right? The difference is plus or minus depending on how you think about it here, of course, right? Let's say their difference there is going to be 74, right? If we do 2856 minus 2782, we have a difference of 74 in terms of their ratings. Now, let's focus on a single game, and let's focus on Magnus as well. So let's focus here what's happening for Magnus in this case. So in a single game, our rating systems, right, we have for M in this case, 1 divided by, we're always doing this reciprocal there. So 1 plus, and then the reason I'm thinking of the difference in their ratings, that's what we use here. Remember, for Magnus, he's the higher one, so we want a negative exponent in terms of the rating. So we have negative 74 divided by 400 is our exponent in that denominator here. Now, these numbers are not super nice numbers in this case, but let's say that this is roughly then 0.64 or 0.6049 points in this scenario. Now, let's leave Jan off for a moment, because we know that Jan is 1 minus that. We can always have, you can double check the math there, we always have these adding up to 1. That's one of our important properties there. So what we really care about more is what happens in the 11 games. So here is where I'm going to summarize the results for both of them, right? Magnus, we can show the work again. This is 11 games. Every game we expect him to win 0.6049 points. And so in total, this is going to be approximately 6.65 points here. So that is his approximate that we would expect after those 11 games. Now, as we said, the single game points add up to 1, so the 11 game points should add up to 11. So just when we're working with Jan in this case, let's just save a little bit of time. You can double check those calculations, but Jan is then going to be the other 4.35 points. So approximately 4.35 points was what we expect for Jan in this case. Now, when we update the rankings, we will see these numbers again. So let's keep those in mind, and we'll use them in a few slides as well. So what was the actual performance, right? So here's the spoilers of the actual World Championship played in December of last year, right? We have Carlsen winning 7 games, drew 7, so he retained the title of World Champion. Remember that a draw is worth a half of a point, so he had 3.5 points plus 4, 7.5 points, meaning Jan got the other 3.5 points during those 11 games. So those are the actual performances, right? We saw their predicted amounts on the previous slide, 6.65 and 4.35, but they actually got 7.5 and 3.5 in this case. Let's take a look at their updated ratings then as well after those 11 games. So we have the new rating for Magnus and the new rating for Jan in both cases. Now, first of all, remember these new ratings are of course first and foremost based on their original rating. And then we are updating this based on those 11 games. So Magnus was 2856, Jan was 2782 in that case. Now, next component of our formula, remember, is our constant. So we have 10 times this difference between their predicted and actual performance in that case. So we have that general format for both of them. They both use the same k value in that scenario. Now, what were their actual versus predicted performance? Remember, Magnus got 7.5 points, 4 wins and 7 draws. The other 3.5 points for Jan. Now, the difference then between the predicted, remember we said Magnus was predicted to get 6.65 points. Jan was predicted to get the other 4.35 points there. So we have their performance based on their predicted versus the actual amount they got. So Magnus outperformed his predicted score, so his rating will go up, and his new rating here, if you do the numbers here, will be 2864.5. Now, we didn't do all of the decimals the entire time, and so just so we can get these to match a little bit, right? Let's say this one with extra decimals would actually round up to 2865. And if you do this for Jan, you will get roughly 2773.5. And if you keep track of the decimals a little bit better, in this case, this one actually officially would round down. So you would have 2773 in that scenario, and those would be our new updated ratings. So if you check their ratings as of January 2022, right, their current ratings right now for the standard classical chess, you can check these out, and this is what you will get for their new ratings after the 11 games of the World Championship. That will do it for this video. Stay tuned for a new topic next week. And we're always looking for feedback and new ideas, right? What do you want me to talk about next or later on this year? Please share in the comments below any thoughts you might have as well. Please subscribe and like this video if you thought it was enjoyable, and I will see everybody next time. Goodbye.